welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to be doing I'm going to be doing my first video since finishing at Gordon School the other week. In today's video we have a Premier League related video. The Premier League season wrapped up on Sunday afternoon with the final fixtures of the 38th game for every club in the Premier League, and we had some incredible games. We had Southampton 4, Liverpool 4. We had the relegation race going to the bitter end. Everton surviving in the final. Leicester and Leeds going down alongside Southampton. We had Villa clinching Europa Conference League with a win against Brighton. We saw Spurs miss out on Europa League. We saw Chelsea get a draw in the final game of what has been a really bad season. We had Arsenal end the season really well by beating Wolves 5-0. Yes, they didn't go on to win the title, but they ended off the season well. And this is how the Premier League table finished. Man City top, Arsenal second, Man United third, Newcastle fourth, Liverpool fifth, Brighton sixth, Villa 7th, Spurs 8th, Brentford 9th, Fulham 10th, Palace 11th, Chelsea 12th, Wolves 13th, West Ham 14th, Bournemouth 15th, Forest 16th, Everton 17th, Leicester 18th, Leeds 19th, and Southampton 20th. Rock bottom. Today we will be giving you, first off, I'll be going through every Premier League club, bar Fulham, every Premier League club who was in the Premier League this season and last season, and that being City, Arsenal, United, Newcastle, Liverpool, Brighton, Villa, Spurs, Brentford, Palace, Chelsea, Wolves, West Ham, Everton, Leicester, Leeds, Southampton. And I will be giving you their points difference, their places difference from this season compared to last season, and their points difference from this season compared to last season. If they've gone up in terms of places, positive. If they've gone down in terms of places, negative. If they've gone up in terms of points, positive. If they've gone down in terms of points, negative. So I'm going to go through each club and give you whether they have a positive places difference or a negative places difference, and if they have a positive points difference or a negative points difference. Let's start from the bottom of the table. Southampton finishing 20th. They finished 20th in this season. Last season they finished up in 15th. This season they picked up, and that 15th. But yeah, Southampton finished 20th this season. Last season they finished 15th, and that gives them a places difference of -5. And Southampton this season got 25 points. Last season they got 40 points. That is a points difference of -15. So overall, it's been a terrible season for Southampton. I've got the old GCSE grade on the back of this. A+, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and each of them represents a different type of season. So we have G, which is for the teams who have had a nightmare season, but F for teams who have had a bad season, E for teams who have had a disappointing season, D for people who have had teams who have had an okay season, C for teams who have had a progression season, so have progressed in terms of the size of club and in terms of their position last season, B for teams who have had a good season, A for teams who have had a great season, and A+ for the top of the crop who have had an outstanding season. Southampton will be graded at F for a definite bad season. So yeah, Southampton F. Next up, in 19th, we had Leeds. Leeds, this season, like I said, finished 19th. Last season, they finished 17th. That is a points difference, that is a places difference of -2. This season, Leeds got 31 points. Last season, Leeds got 38 points. That gives them a points difference of -7. And as for their grade, they are going to go alongside Southampton in F, with after having a bad season. So yeah, that's Leeds F. In 18th, we had probably one of the most shocking teams. In 18th, we had Leicester. Last season, Leicester finished 18th. This season, like I said, they finished. Last season, Leicester finished 8th, and like I said, this season, Leicester finished 18th. That gives Leicester That gives Leicester a places difference. That gives Leicester a places difference of -12, which is pretty much a travesty. They shouldn't have been relegated this season based on their previous 3 seasons. But here they are, they're relegated, and they finished with a places difference of -12. Last season they got this season they got 34 points. Last season they got 52 points. That gives them a points difference of -18, which is the worst points difference so far. 3 less than Southampton at -3 less than Southampton. Next up is 17th. In 17th we have Everton. And as for Leicester's rating from G to A+, G. They have definitely had the definition of what you call a nightmare season. So yeah, Leicester will get a G for having a nightmare season. In 17th we have Everton. Now, Everton, like I said, finished 17th this season. Last season they finished 16th. That gives them a places difference of -1. Last season Everton got 39 points. This season Everton got 36 points. That gives them a points difference of -3. And as for the grade, I'm gonna say for them, bad season. Generally, which is F, so they get an F. If you generally look at Everton, it's not been a nightmare season because they were in this exact same position. They were in this exact same position in the table, around this exact same position in the table last season. So it's not a nightmare season, but it is a bad season because second season running they've been involved in a relegation battle. So yeah, they get an F. Next up is obviously one of the promoted sides, Forest. We don't need to go too much into context with Forest. Obviously, in last season in the Championship, they finished 4th and they won the playoffs. This season, they did pretty well to finish 16th, and they finished 16th on 38 points. If I had to give a grade for Nottingham Forest, it would probably have to be... I'm now going to give a grade for Nottingham Forest. We don't have as much data to go on as Everton, Leicester and Leeds and Southampton, but we will give Nottingham Forest a rating as they were in the Premier League this season. Yes, they weren't in the Premier League last season, but they were in the Premier League this season. And based on their first season in the Premier League, their first season ever in the Premier League, I have to give them B, good season. I have to give them B, good season. I think, given the fact there were some people that were, given the fact that they were absolutely horrendous away from home, to pick up as many points as they did near the end of the season and to survive with one game and to beat Arsenal, who have been amazing this season, to clinch safety, I think makes it a good season, to be honest. The thing for us was to stay up, and they've done exactly that. So yeah, I'm going to give them a B, having a good season. In 15th, we obviously have Bournemouth, who, just like Forest, have done really well to stay up this season. They finished in 15th with 39 points, 1 point above Nottingham Forest. Everyone predicted Bournemouth to get relegated. Everyone at the start of the season predicted Bournemouth to finish rock bottom of the Premier League. And here we are, 38 games later, they've survived they've survived, and here we are 38 games later, and they've survived. And they've survived. Only and they've survived. 5 points clear of the relegation zone, having 5 points clear of the relegation zone. So overall, Bournemouth, just given the fact that they were tipped for relegation, to survive and to survive pretty comfortably with a 4-point gap between them and Leicester is very good. So overall grade, I would have to give Bournemouth, just like Nottingham Forest, a B, because Nottingham Forest's first main target this season was to stay up, and they've done exactly that. So yeah, they're going to be graded as a B for having a good season. Next up, we have West Ham. West Ham this season finished 14th. In last season, they finished 7th. That gives West Ham a places difference of -7. I'm just going to quickly turn the lights on. But yeah, West Ham, like I said, 14th this season, 7th last season. That gives them a places difference of -7. So a pretty bad season compared to last season for West Ham. However, this season they got 40 points. Last season they got 56 points. That gives them a points difference of -60. I have to give West Ham credit though for something. I have to give West Ham credit I have to give West Ham some credit for getting to the Europa Conference League final. That won't contribute towards their overall grade, because this is Premier League. This is their grade from G to A+ based on the Premier League season, not based on the whole season, based on the Premier League season. And because of their Premier League season, I'm going to say, compared to last season, E. So they're going to be E. They've had a disappointing season, and they all know it. They know, West Ham fans know they've had a disappointing season, and one thing they know for sure, definitely, other than that, is that Declan Rice will leave at some point this summer, whether it be to Arsenal or whether it be to Bayern Munich, who he's apparently linked with. But yeah, West Ham overall, I would give them a E for having a slightly disappointing season. In terms of Premier League, disappointing, but in terms of overall season, slightly disappointing. But they were playing extra games in the week. Were playing European games midweek, alongside either side of each, in between each Premier League game on the other week. But one thing, like I said, they have to give West Ham credit to West Ham for this season is the fact that they are in the European final, and if they win the European final, they will go straight into the Europa League, which actually, to be honest, they performed really well in last year, until obviously they lost to Frankfurt in the semi-finals, who obviously went on to win the Europa League. So yeah, overall West Ham, I'm going to go E, having had a disappointing season. Next up is Wolves. This season they finished 13th. Last season they finished 10th. That gives them a points difference. That gives them a places difference of -3. Wolves started out poorly. Looked like they were with a shadow of relegation. They signed Julian Lopetegui. Julian Lopetegui got everyone out, got them out of that situation. And overall, they did pretty well. They were pretty safe. Pretty much, they were solidly safe. They were solidly safe. 7 points clear of 18th place Leicester. And speaking of points, this season they got 41 points. Last season they got 51 points. That gives Wolves a points difference of -10. Certainly not the worst. Next up, and in terms of Wolves' grade, I'm going to go D, okay season. Given the way it started, I'm going to go D, okay season. Chelsea, 12th. Compared to last season, Chelsea this season, they were 12th. Last season, they were 3rd. That gives them a places difference of -9. Chelsea this year have been shocking, and that is also shown. It's not just shown in their position, but it's also shown in the amount of points they picked up. This season, Chelsea picked up 44 points. Last season, Chelsea picked up a whopping 74 points while finishing in 3rd. 74 points. That gives Chelsea by far the worst points difference of minus 30. And it's for that reason, and that reason only, that Chelsea get only my second nightmare season. It's been an absolute nightmare season for Chelsea. They should not be finishing 12th, and hopefully for their sake, they do much better next season. Because no European football actually could be a good thing for Chelsea. Because this season, they've been absolutely disgraceful and absolutely shocking, and don't deserve anything other than a G for having such a nightmare season. Let's go a bit more positive with Palace, who finished 11th. Last season, they finished 12th. That gives them a points difference of +1, which is actually not bad. However, yes, they have gone up one place, but they didn't pick up as many points this season as they did last season. Last season, they picked up 48 points. This season, they picked up 45 points. That gives them a points difference of -3. Overall, I'd give Palace an E. Based on where they were under Patrick Vieira last season, to finish mid-table and to go on that horrendous one under Patrick Vieira means I have to put them in this E for having a disappointing season. Next up, we have Brentford. Next up we have our third and final Championship team that was last season. That we're going to talk about. Fulham, obviously, they finished first in the Championship last season. This season, they finished 10th with 52 points. So overall, for a grade, I will give Fulham a great season. Given the fact that they were up for relegation, given the fact that loads of people were predicting them for relegation at the end of this, given the fact that people said that Fulham would finish in the bottom 3 this season, I have to give them a grade. They have had Fulham have had an exceptionally great season, so they get an A. Next up is Brentford. Brentford finished 9th. Last season, they finished 13th. That gives Brentford a points difference. That gives Brentford a places difference of +4. This season, Brentford got 59 points. Last season, Brentford got 46 points. That gives Brentford a points difference of +13, which, given the fact that it's their second season in the Premier League, that is incredible. And overall, they will get A. Not A+, because there are 2 teams. Well, actually, there are 3 teams that deserve to be an A+, more than Brentford, so I'm going to give them an A. Next up, Spurs, 8th place this season, 4th last season. That gives them a places difference of -4. Last season, they got 71 points. This season, they got 60 points, and that gives Spurs a points difference of -11. Not a great season for Spurs. They've missed out on Europe altogether. So a poor season, but not as bad as I think people are saying it is. So I'm going to say, given the fact they did finish in the top 4 last season, beating Arsenal to that spot at the end of last season, I'm going to put them in a disappointing season. Given the fact they were top 4, they had finished top 4 in the Premier League last season, and they were in the Champions League this season. I think, based on how it ended in both Premier League and Champions League, they will get an E, because necessarily for me, I don't think it's a bad or nightmare season compared to Leicester, who have definitely had a nightmare season, and Chelsea, who have been the worst team in London, not just based on position. Well, worst team in London, not just based on position, but based on the overall season that they've had. So yeah, I'm going to give them an E, which is for a disappointing season. Next up is Aston Villa. Aston Villa finished 7th this season. Last season, they finished 14th. That gives Villa a points difference of +7, which is the best points difference, which is the best places difference, alongside one other team that we'll get to very, very soon. And then in terms of points, this season, Villa got 61 points. Last season, Villa got 45 points. Overall, that is a points difference of +16. One of the best points differences one of the best one of the best points differences in terms of the Premier League teams this season. So yeah, Villa overall, great season, and yes, they've overall for me, great season. But given the fact that they were in with a shout of relegation before Emery came in, I have to give them. I can't give. Given that Aston Villa were in relegation trouble before Unai Emery came in and changed all that, I have to give them A+ for having an outstanding season. To go from relegation candidates to Europa Conference League qualifiers, in terms of qualified for the Europa Conference League, is absolutely incredible, and Unai Emery deserves so much of that praise. Next up is one of the best teams, to be honest, in terms of the way they play football, Brighton, who finished 6th in the Europa League spot. Last season they finished 9th, so a +3 points difference, which, given the fact how you thought Brighton's season last season was amazing, Brighton's season this season was even better, getting 6th overall, 6th, and given the fact that they've gotten 6th, and for them to get Europa League football for them to clinch Europa League football for next season is absolutely incredible. And alongside Aston Villa, they go straight in to A+ outstanding season, because under Potter they were great, but De Zerbi took them to a whole other level, and Brighton 100% deserve to be in Europe next season based on how well they've done. So there you go, they get A+ for having an outstanding season. We have one more team that we're giving an A+ to, but it's not the next team, because the next team is Liverpool, who finished 5th. Last season they obviously finished 2nd. That gives them a places difference of -3. However, that, based on the recent form they've been on, that isn't the worst in the world. You know what is the worst in the world? Their points. You know what is one of the worst in the world? Their points difference. Liverpool's points this season was 67. Liverpool's points last season was the second best in the league, with being 92. That 92 points last season and 67 points this season gives Liverpool a points difference of -25, the second worst points difference behind Chelsea, of which was obviously, like I said, -30. So not great. Not a great season for Liverpool, based on especially given the fact that they were 2nd last season. Next up, we have Newcastle. Newcastle finished 4th, 71 points. Newcastle finished 4th. Last season, they finished 11th. And alongside Aston Villa, they have the best points difference of +. And alongside Aston Villa, they have the best places difference of +7. Last season, Newcastle got 49 points. This season, Newcastle got 71 points. 71 points this season and 49 points last season gives Newcastle the best points difference in the league of +22. Overall, it's been a great season. However, before I give my grade to Newcastle, I forgot to give a grade to Liverpool. Overall, Liverpool will be getting a disappointing season. We'll be getting E, which is disappointing season. They haven't lived up to the standards they have set over the past 2 years, battling it out for the Premier League with Manchester City. So overall, they had to go in E for disappointing season. It's not been a bad season by all means. They've progressed a lot, but it's not like it's the worst. They've progressed a lot. However, they've not progressed. They've disappointed, basically. So what I'm trying to say is Liverpool have definitely disappointed this season, so they get an E, which is disappointing because a disappointing season. And now we'll move on to the Newcastle grade, and Newcastle will be getting the 3rd and final A+ for an outstanding season. So yeah, A+ for Newcastle, outstanding season by all means, 100%. Next up, we're down to our last 3 teams. Next up, are third to last Man United, who finished third. Last season, United finished sixth. That gives United a places difference of +3, which is the same as Arsenal, which is the same as Brighton, which is the same as Brighton and Arsenal. Man United this season got 75 points. Last season they got 58 points. That gives them a points difference of +17. One of the best ones in the league. One of the best points differences in the league. So overall, it's been a good season for Man United. And actually, I originally thought I'd put them in good season. However, under new management, it has been a progression season. So I'll give them a C, because they have progressed compared to last season. So yeah, C, progression season, Man United. C, Man United, C, progression season. We're now down to the penultimate team. Next up, our penultimate team that we'll be talking about today, is Arsenal. Last season, Arsenal finished 5th. This season, Arsenal finished 2nd. That gives Arsenal a places difference of +3, which, like I said earlier, is the same as Man United and Brighton when I was talking about Man United. And in terms of points, last season Arsenal picked up 69 points, finishing in 5th, which is weird, which is crazy. And this season they got a whopping 84 points, only missing out on the title by 5 points after City's draw away to Brighton and defeat away to Brentford. So yeah, overall that gave Arsenal a points difference of +15, which is one of the better ones in the league. Which is one of the better points difference in the league. And we now move on to the final team. The final team that we're going to be talking about in today's video is the team that you can see represented right here on my shirt. And that is Manchester City. Once again, we finished in third. Third season in a row we finished first. However, this season compared to last season, City's season this season is actually slightly worse than last season. Yes, City finished 5 points clear of Arsenal in the Premier League. But if we look at their points difference and their places difference, you can tell based on, and if you look at their places difference and their points difference, they've had a worse season compared to last. But that's mainly down to 1, Arsenal being so good, and 2, down to City having made such a slow start. However, let's go. But speaking of their places difference and their points difference, speaking of their places and points difference, let's give their places and points difference. City obviously last season finished first. This season finished first. That gives them a places difference of 0. The only team who had a places difference of 0, because they are the only team, City are the only team with 0 in terms of places difference, because City are the only team that have stayed in the same position this season that they were in last season, being first. And in terms of points, last season we got a very good 93 points, winning the title by 1 point over Liverpool's 92. This season we got 89 points, winning the league 5 points above Arsenal. But City's 93 points of last season compared to City's City's points last season and City's points this season gives us an overall points difference of -4. The team who finished in first has a negative points difference, but that's mainly due to 2 reasons. Like I said, the main reason why we haven't picked up as many points this season compared to last season it's a lot of a lot of rotation later on this season. 2, Arsenal being so good, and 3, City having started really negatively. But overall, it's been a good season for Man City, and I'm going to go and give us an A for having a great season. However, I know we said based on West Ham. I know we said when we talked about West Ham, we said West Ham aren't my grade. West Ham isn't given based on their Premier League season and what they've done in Europe. It's just based on their Premier League season. However, we have to bring up the fact, I think, the only team... I'm just going to add this. I know I said, when I talked about West Ham that I wouldn't base their grade on Europe. I'm going to say this. If City win the treble, if we win the treble by beating United in the FA Cup final and by beating Inter Milan in the Champions League final, we go up to A+. If City don't win the treble but win the Champions League, we go up to A+. If we don't win the treble, if City don't win the treble and only win the FA Cup, we get an A. If we win neither the FA Cup or the Champions League, which is the worst case scenario, we go down to good. So yeah, if we win the treble, A+. If we win Champions League but not the FA Cup, if we win the Champions League and the Premier League but not the FA Cup, A+. If we win the FA Cup and the Premier League but not the Champions League, A. If we win neither the Champions League or the FA Cup, B. But thank you for watching my overview, my ratings, my Premier League grade ratings based on places difference from this season compared to last season for the Premier League teams that were in the Premier League this season and last season, and points difference for the teams that were in the Premier League this season and last season, with also the grades for the newly promoted sides based on the points they gathered and where they finished. But hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to my channel, click the notification bell to catch up with all my activities. Until next time, where we do the Gordon's farewell video, I am out. Peace, bye, adios. See you next time.